Millcreek Township Supervisor John Groh. As many of you know, there are several levels of government that interact and are a part of living in the United States and, of course, Pennsylvania. To discuss the functions, roles, and interactions of Millcreek Township government and Erie County governments are my guests, Erie County Councilwoman Kathy Fatika and Erie County Councilman Carl Anderson. They both have a shared interest in representing Millcreek Township residents at the county government level. Kathy and Carl, welcome to the show today.
Thank you
Thank you for being here.
John, it's good to be with you.
Thank you. Thanks. We have about 30 minutes. I know we have a lot of topics we want to cover here, so I'll not do so much talking. I'll just throw a question out here, and hopefully one of you two will give me an answer. I know both of you will give me an answer here. Of course, just basic facts for our residents to know here. In Pennsylvania, we have 67 counties, and that's pretty large here when you look at it, but Pennsylvania is a large state too. Then we also have 2,562 municipalities. That includes cities, towns, boroughs, and townships. And so you can see how many different levels of government we have. Each has its own style, and we're going to talk about Erie County government and Millcreek Township and how we work together and the things that you folks do, things that we do at the township level. So I'm going to start with you, Carl. I know that you are a historian in regards to government. Specifically, let's talk about what government was like prior to '76 at the Erie County level. What form of government did we have? And then, of course, we changed, and how did that all come about? If you can give us a synopsis of how that worked. So.
Well, certainly going back to our history, way back to William Penn, the Quakers were untrusting of government. So in Pennsylvania, we have these multi-levels of government. Everything is local.
Right.
And so when the Pennsylvania Constitution changed in 1972, they put in Act 62, which was the Home Rule Charter portion, allowing for several options of government.
Right.
Home rule is self-governance. It gives us more flexibility at the local level, where we once had the county commissioner form of government prior to that, where 3 commissioners acted as the executive body and the legislative body.
Right.
Under the Municipalities Act of the Pennsylvania Constitution. So the change to the Home Rule Charter, putting that local, we now have a county executive and council form of government. Right. County commissioners in Pennsylvania, there still are counties that retain them. Right. They fall under the Municipalities Act, which falls under state law. Right. So they have to follow those state laws. They don't set local laws, where we set up our policies, our taxing bodies, et cetera.
Right. So that's pursuant to, I'm sure the study was done by local government, or the county, that is, I'm assuming, first of all, a ballot question. Are the voters of Millcreek, or not Millcreek, of Erie County, are they interested in even doing a study to see if there's alternate forms that we can go with? And obviously there was chosen that, yes, we would do that, and then came up with a home rule charter, and then also enacted that home rule charter and elected the officials to fill those roles that were in it, because many elected offices were now created then. We have the council, county council, and then also the county executive. So, there was a lot done through all of that. There was a lot of work. I remember that. I was voted in that. I was old enough to vote at that time.
Right. A lot of work was done in
Was
setting that up, yeah.
Yeah.
And as Kathy is aware and has taught me, Erie County was one of the first communities across the state that really took on the challenge of setting up this new form of government, putting forward the study commission, as you had mentioned earlier, in 1976, getting that gone through with the voters, and in January of 1978, our new form of government began.
And of course, the offices were elected prior to that for those people. And how many?
There currently, if I'm understanding right, there are 7 counties in Pennsylvania that fall under Home Rule Charter.
Okay.
And that doesn't include Philadelphia, which is a unique situation, as I
like
understand
a state
it.
upon itself, right?
It's well, we've always joked about that, which is a city-county Home Rule Charter.
Right.
So
yeah.
that's,
and of course, Allegheny is a Class A county, I believe, and that has its own his own set
their
of
home rule
Yeah.
as
Right,
well.
yeah.
Yes.
And I should mention, John, in preparing for the show with you today, I did some additional homework
Okay.
and found out another interesting fact that you don't actually have to be a county in Pennsylvania to be a home rule.
Right.
So there are other
Municipalities.
local municipalities within counties
Right, I know
that are
that
set aside as
Mill
well.
Creek, we had tried that a couple years ago with a ballot question, and of course it failed, the question did. So
Yep.
maybe at another time, maybe 30, 40 years from now, we'll bring it up again.
Yeah.
You know, so-
And we still follow the state rules and guidelines with regard to our departments, like the
Yes.
health department, for example. But we really know, as home rule, then we have the ability to look at what we feel is acting in the best interest
Right.
of all of our
Yeah.
residents.
Right, and that's where I'm actually heading to in my next question. Let's look at first of all, let's talk about county council and the county executive as far as the offices. First of all, of course, we have a county executive. This kind of gives a checks and balances. The county council enacts policies and not ordinances, any other thing, policies, resolutions. And then, of course, we have the county executive as a balance to that.
So it's the same. It's the executive and legislative branch,
right.
and that's
Okay.
how
Okay.
business is conducted.
And a good way to state it is that the council legislates, appropriates, and sets policy.
Right, okay. How many members do we have on county council?
There's 7.
There's 7, okay, so we have 7 and 1, okay. And then there's other elected offices at the
Yes.
county level.
Yes.
And we got the county controller, that's one in the office, treasurer too.
And in the court system.
In the court system, okay. Let's talk about the services and programs and whatever else the county government does. I know there are so many things. You mentioned the court system. Let's talk about what all is included in that court system.
Well, to name all of the departments.
Yeah,
would
there's a
be-
lot
would
to
be-
this. I
yes,
want
there
the
would- there would be
residents
a
to
lot.
understand,
And
yeah.
there are things that are in the court system that don't just involve trial. It involves all other legal matters, like recorder of deeds and
Right.
things of that nature.
Right, kind of all meshes together then.
Right, we have juvenile and adult probation
Probation.
fall under that. The district justices fall under the court system. Public defender's office, the district attorney's
Attorney's
office.
office.
That's
I mean,
right.
it's county government is a vast, aspect of our lives, and it really, a lot of people don't pay attention to county government. We hear about the president, and everybody wants to
Right.
know about the president, but county government affects our lives every single day.
And that's why I have wanted you folks on this program, so we can get this message out to the people, because when it comes to affecting daily living, it is going to be the county and the local municipalities that have that effect. Yes, the state does things for us too, especially when it comes to roads, our state roads. So we have that. But for the most, when it comes to the local taxes and the local accessibility to our elected officials, that's what we do.
Yes.
It's a little hard to go down to Harrisburg, go to the Capitol and talk to somebody down there. You just don't always get that. I'm not saying it's bad, please, I'm not trying to,
No,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's a fact, so.
Yeah, and I should mention, John, that the way in which county council is set up is we're set up by districts with the
Yes.
7 members.
Right,
Millcreek is fortunate to be represented by 3.
right.
And of course, very fortunate to have Kathy Fatika as the largest representative of Millcreek Township, West Millcreek.
Right.
I represent the Bell Valley area, and then Fiore Leone has 2 small districts in
districts
Millcreek
there,
as
yes.
well.
Yes, and I'll have a graphic showing up here, who represents what districts there, rather than have you, list what precincts you vote, what
Yes.
voters you cover there. But, so Millcreek is that large, that we have, 3 representatives on county council government there. So we're well represented in that there.
Yes.
And we have a voice there at the county level, like all residents do. So getting back to what the county does, of course, we have, as part of the court system, and it kind of blends in other things. The sheriff's office, they handle many things. First of all, courthouse security is one of them.
Yes.
Let's also look at, for example, sheriff sales. They handle that for the taxing, for the taxing bodies, for delinquent taxes. The tax sales, that is. I'm sorry. Let me,
And also accompanying
Yeah.
prisoners,
Prisoners.
which has been an expense.
Oh, yes.
Because of some of the out-of-county
Yes.
course, that have to
Right.
be in place.
Yeah.
They deliver warrants.
Right, warrants,
They are responsible for the security in the courts themselves, as
Right.
well as
As a building
as the
too, yes.
courthouse,
Right.
yes.
And so if you go down to the courthouse, as you may know, if you haven't been down there, when you go through there, you'll go through metal detectors. Your phone will probably be put into a jacket, a locked
That's
jacket. Of course, weapons are not allowed in the courthouse, and that's obvious, So, so we also have the tax assessment office there, and their role is, tell us what that's all about. I mean, the taxes, somebody's got to determine value,
Yes,
right?
That's exactly it. And so the properties are evaluated and assessed.
Right.
And in the event that someone would question their assessment value, they do help negotiate or work through the system.
Yeah. Okay,
for that.
make an adjustment, or there is an appeal
Or
mechanism.
there,
Yes.
yes, any
Yes.
kind of an appeal.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so those values are set based on standards that are I think there's probably some assessment standards and their professional licensing.
Yes.
It's not just anybody can come in and say, hey, I like this person, I'm going to set the value at that. I don't like that
There-
person, and their value's going to
There
be.
were photos, they have everything documented.
That may have happened before, John, but it doesn't happen anymore.
I know,
No,
I know.
no,
And they run a very professional office. Scott Maas, I think
Mm-hmm.
it does a really good job down there. And of course, the assessment board has been very helpful in appeals for
Mm-hmm.
the residents and for the municipalities too. They've been very fair about things. So, moving on, of course, the health department. You mentioned that, and of course, I know you're a nurse.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Of course, so the health little
I'm
people. You're not
a,
nursing. You're not a nurse anymore. I think you've retired.
No, I'm
You're
still-
nursing
I have
grandchildren
I have
and-
one more year.
Oh, you do?
and
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
keeping my license. So,
Oh, I see. Okay, I was not aware of
Because,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
So the health department is involved with the health and welfare of this entire community. So currently, at the way the health department is set up now, there's three main branches.
Right.
There is community health, which is where nurses and several other programs were involved, the health education,
Okay.
and environmental health.
Right.
And so all of those different departments work together. For example, when there had been a foodborne outbreak, and the nurses are investigating and trying to get data, administration is involved, the nurses are working to get the data, community education is out making sure people are aware, and the environmental division is doing their job because they really begin with prevention.
Right.
So, and under the community health division where the nurses are a variety of different programs from communicable diseases, that includes tuberculosis, HIV, as well as a variety of other communicable diseases, the immunization department,
Okay.
nurse-family partnership, maternal child health. So there's an awful lot of services that are available. And even though they're three separate divisions, everybody does work together because they all have that common goal, is to keep this community healthy.
Right, and that is really one of the objectives of government, is to protect,
right.
protect the health, safety, and welfare. And that's,
Period.
And
That's
whenever
it.
we can take an action that is rooted in that we're doing the right thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Not everybody
so it's
may
my
agree.
passion.
Right.
And,
Not
and
everybody
that's just
agrees with it, but
yeah.
you know.
But that's exactly it. Because when you have to have a passion
Right.
for this.
Oh, yes.
And it's actually very rewarding as a healthcare professional. I worked in the health department, and your reward is really the fact that you actually can make a difference throughout
yes.
all of Erie County by taking care of one individual at a time. So,
Yeah, and of course.
so I'm very proud of it.
Well, I'm glad.
Thank
I'm
you
glad of
for-
that there, and thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
And I
yeah.
do want to mention, John, that Erie County residents, and particularly people in Millcreek, should be very confident and honored that we have Kathy
Yes.
on county council.
yeah.
I mean, she is, and she said, she has a passion for
Yes.
healthcare. And
And
she
I
truly
remind them
does.
to get their flu shot. Did you get yours
Absolutely.
yet?
Yes, I did.
All right.
I've been doing mine for about 40 years now.
All right,
Kathleen,
that's
so-
right.
You know, and as she said, we each come with unique skill
Skill
sets
set.
and
Right.
passions.
Right.
You know, I never really, before I was on council, never really thought about health issues or the health department in the terms that I do now.
Right.
What I've learned, how it interacts with our daily lives.
Yeah.
And no department is by itself. The health department is dealing with issues with drug addiction and drug abuse and alcohol, and that relates to juvenile and adult probation and the court system and the Department of Corrections.
Right.
It's all intertwined.
Yes.
Everything that we do.
It is, yeah.
And
very
maybe
much.
this is a good point to bring up the latest development with the health department, or what we're going to be doing with the blue zones
Okay.
for a healthy community.
Right.
As a nurse, I've spent my entire life trying to convince people to do things that they really didn't want to do, and the fact that now with the blue zones, we're actually making those healthy choices a lot easier, and I'm really
Okay.
looking forward. That's a whole other show that you can do.
Okay.
I'm just going to
Yeah.
plug it for the
Okay,
future.
we'll take
All
it as a
right,
plug for
thank
right
you.
now.
But
Thank
it's so important to mention that Erie County is ahead of the curve and is thinking in progressive ways. And I'm proud of all my council colleagues that we're being involved in those initiatives and taking the leads in them. And Blue Zone is a great example of.
Yeah. Well, we know that by healthy people, we have healthy workforce out there, and then we thrive economically and so on. So as long as we can stay healthy, that's important for us.
And we should say it's economic development, because it's people that have business, that want to bring a new business. They want to know that they're bringing their families to a healthy community, one that exercises, makes those options available. Again, it all is interwoven.
Right, it's an attraction for outside people to want to relocate to Erie. Business, first of all, because if you don't have the business and industry, you're not going to get the people there. Right. People aren't going to move where there's no jobs, no opportunities.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, let's move on a little bit, and there's two parts to this right here. And I'm talking about planning, the Erie County Planning Department. They do great work to help, as part of the municipality's planning code, which is the enabling law that allows us to have planning ordinances, zoning ordinances, and subdivision at the local level. And they also do grant administration. So let's talk a little bit about the planning department.
Well, actually, the
and
planning
great work that they
department
do.
has just has renamed. Let me make sure I get it right. Erie County Planning and Community Development.
Right. Yes.
That's what they are, because they really want to encompass more. So you're absolutely right, making sure that they have outreach to the municipalities to offer services however they can, in addition to what they're doing in their department with and expanding with mapping.
Right.
Which helped in, I think one of the issues they were looking at is in the event that there would have been any kind of biohazard issue, that they knew where all of the areas were that they needed to make sure were evacuated, like skilled nursing facilities, things like that. So that could be a whole other show. You
Oh
get
my
them
God, I'm
one
getting
for
ideas
that.
for next.
There you
for
go.
the next
There you
show.
go.
Judy, keep track of that. Okay? Yeah, and of course our relationship, under the municipality's planning code, we have, pursuant to that, Millcreek Township, like many other municipalities in Erie County and throughout the state, it's our enabling law to allow us to have our own tailored zoning ordinances.
Correct.
But it doesn't make us the end-all and say-all. We do need a secondary review by somebody else, especially when there's a request for a rezoning of a property. The state law requires that we submit it to the county planning department 30 days in advance
So that they
for
can
their
look
comment.
at the whole impact.
Another set of eyes to look
Absolutely.
at it. And that
Absolutely.
way, it also comforts us a little bit more knowing that our planning department has reviewed it, that is the township department, then also the counties has looked at it and said, okay, and if they concur, it's like, okay, I think we're heading in the right direction there. So,
And again, county planning is multi-tiered, and one of the things that they're doing now is, which we enacted this last year, is the creation of the countywide land bank.
right.
And
Yes,
they oversee the land bank and the land bank board. They're working with them. They're putting together a GIS system to be able to have all the information of properties on the computer, and for businesses to be able to remotely be able to access information about Erie County from anywhere.
Yeah.
It's a large part of economic development for the
Right.
future.
Right.
So there's so many aspects of the different things that county planning does.
Right. Well, you know, when of course, when I mentioned planning department, that's kind of a generic term. And of
Yes.
course, with the revised, and in case you didn't know, I serve on the Erie County Planning Commission. And of course, I've experienced working in planning and zoning. Many people hear the term planning, they're thinking bureaucracy. And that's not a good thing to do, to think that, because and that's why the name change has, been added to encourage economic development, because that's really why we have regulations. It's to encourage that development, all in the name of the community
That's right,
itself.
for the good of the many. It's
Right.
not, it's not bureaucracy.
Right.
It's more a gathering of ideas and
Yeah.
then making sure we're doing the right thing. So you're on the planning commission.
Right.
And a retired Millcreek Township supervisor serves on the planning commission, Brian McGrath.
Yes.
So Millcreek is well
We're
represented.
represented on
Thank you
that.
very
Yes,
much.
Yes, that's right. And I know that, in fact, I'll do a plug for a show sometime. We'll talk about the land bank.
Yes.
Because that is something new, thanks to the state legislation that created that ability for us to do that.
Yes.
And of course, that's a very aggressive technique to get rid of these blighted properties, but we've had
put
to
'em
do
back
it.
on the tax
Put them back
roll.
on the tax roll,
Yes.
get some proper ownership, get people that care about these things. So I think that's a great move on the legislature's part to give us that power to do that, especially at the county level there. So,
And county council, and working with the county executive, really stepped up to create a very well thought out plan.
Right.
To put that that tool in place.
well, admittedly, I think we all will say that, hey, this has gone too long, it's gone too far. We have to grab the bull by the horns and do the right thing. And that's why we're doing it. So, okay. Let's talk a little bit about, just quickly, just as a little comparison here of what county does and what the township does.
All right.
Right now, it's winter time, or starting to be winter here. Plowing. Do you guys do plowing?
We don't have to worry about the roads. That's
Okay.
what we have you in the
Right,
state for.
Right. Millcreek Township handles Millcreek roads. PennDOT handles PennDOT roads. The county government does not do plowing, other than on your own properties,
Yes,
the
yes.
parking lots and so on.
That's
But you don't plow streets. Okay.
we don't
How
do-
about
we
fire
don't do
protection? The county does not handle
No,
fire
we do
protection.
not do fire protection.
Okay, and that's-
We have a public safety arm, so we coordinate
Right.
with
Okay.
the municipalities with their
Right.
fire and safety, but
Right.
we do not.
Yes.
do the
Of
fires,
course, we have the
yes.
911 center there, and we have the new radio system that
Yes.
your late husband, who was very instrumental in getting it. Phil was just great at
That's
getting
right.
that going there. So.
That's right. That was one of the reasons that got me to stay
Right.
on.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was so passionate about all
Yes,
of his work.
as much as he was there too.
And why we're going to keep her on.
Well, of course, yeah, we're not going to let her there'll be a draft Kathy action coming up here next year or two. So.
But I should mention about the roads, although
Yeah.
the county doesn't plow, last year, we put in place to be able to have money set aside to help municipalities
Yes.
with road repair or road construction.
Right, and that was through
Yes.
that. There was an additional $5 registration fee for
That's
vehicles.
correct.
So that's what
Yes.
that is for. It's
Yes.
to
Yes.
help out municipalities. Yeah.
Yes,
Correct.
yes. And in addition to help out municipalities, even with the road construction.
Yeah.
A portion of that absolutely has to be used for what they consider elevated roadways. So
Right.
you think, and it doesn't mean like a big bridge,
Right.
anything that would be elevated for inspection as well as repair.
Okay.
And then in addition, speaking of roads, some of that can also be used for any intersection
Okay.
at some point. So that's down the road. And that's one of the things that we want to make sure get out to all the municipalities.
Right, okay. One other quick one here, law enforcement. The police, of course, the county is not responsible. They have the sheriff's department, which handles specific duties.
And again, coordinating with
the police
public,
department.
with public safety.
Public safety,
Yes,
right.
Yes.
So there we go back to the health, safety, and welfare of the public there. We have just a few minutes left. Let's talk about that one part that nobody wants to hear. Budgets. You guys are getting close to adopting your budget?
We did.
You did already,
We're-
I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
That's why we're smiling.
That's why
today.
you're smiling, okay. Well, we'll be smiling at the end of the month here, I
Yeah.
think. So anyway, we have just a few minutes left. County budget, you've adopted it. What is that number? Can I ask what that number is?
Essentially, just for the record, the county budget to run everything in the county is around just under 440 million.
Okay.
However, almost half of that is covered by state
By
and federal grants.
right,
All right.
right.
Pass
So
through.
so and then the rest is about 50%, or 200 and some million, is covered by fees for services as well as the taxes.
Property
So
taxes.
essentially, what we looked at was more about half of that is the 100 and I forget the exact total.
110 million,
110
roughly,
million.
yeah.
So the
All right,
point is
so
that we
that's,
see.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to break down.
We see how much it costs, and these are things that have to come with it there.
Yes.
Millcreek Township, and by no means is this trying to be, in any other fashion, we're going to be adopting a budget that's around $28 million in Millcreek Township. But keep in mind what we're dealing with. We have 53,000 residents. How many are in the county total?
280.
280. So, I mean, even though we take a large portion of it, still our budget is rather minute, rather small compared to what you guys do at the county level there. So,
And the county, the budget, the all county, and what we derive from the budget is human service
right.
issues.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I think we're going to have to wrap up our show here. I want to thank both of you for being on the show here. And Kathy, we got some ideas for future shows. We may be calling you again,
Fine.
Carl.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on
having
the show,
me.
both
John,
of you.
it
I
was a real
appreciate
pleasure
it.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
I want to thank our guests for being on the program today. If you need to contact either Carl or Kathy or Fiore Leone, feel free to give them a call through the county council office at the county courthouse. Their email addresses are also found on the county website. And of course, you can always contact me or any of the township supervisors at Millcreek Township. Our number is 833-1111. Thanks again for watching our program.